my own way. I'm not just going to be Hogan's kid and somebody that they look at as, you know, he's the boss's kid. So I worked hard. I figure I wouldn't do anything that I wouldn't ask somebody else to do. I would do the same. My dad gave me two pieces of advice. He says, you're going to learn more with your ears than you will with your mouth, and treat people the way you want to be treated and you'll be successful. So by that, I was in a lot of negotiation sessions, organizing sessions, and I just listened and I learned. Eventually,
go ahead.
Eventually I stepped out on my own and built a reputation that took me up to becoming the president of the local. I went on to become an international representative of the movie and trade show division for the International Brotherhood of Teamsters. I became the president of the Joint Council after my father retired, so I think that speaks to people respecting me, and it wasn't my dad just putting me into different positions. And I eventually became the chairman of the Central Conference, covering 13 states and 574,000 members. So that's a little of my background in the Teamsters.
So how many years does that amount to?
That covers a 40-year span.
40 years as a Teamster.
Right.
Okay, for our viewers that just tune in, this is a live cable cast. If you have a question for Bill Hogan, our number here is 312-738-1060. Bill Hogan, Teamster. Bill, tell us now, the name of the show, we have Free Speech for Bill Hogan. Tell us about your free speech, or should we show the First Amendment first? Maybe we should do that. Let's do that.
Yes.
We're going to start off by the First Amendment of the Constitution. It says, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or of the right of the people peacefully to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. So we're going to talk to Bill Hogan about his position or his situation that he has as a Teamster. Bill?
Well, in 1989, there was a consent decree signed between the International Brotherhood of Teamsters and the U.S. government and with the Justice Department. And that consent decree was basically to remove organized crime from the Teamsters Union, and they wanted to have an election of officers by the membership. And they proceeded with that. They went around the country, the officers that signed that, and explained it to the members that this was to bring about an election. And after that, that the Independent Review Board, which they ultimately became, would then phase themselves out, and we'd have a monitor for a while. But it didn't quite work out that way. They had elections in all of the locals around the country, supervised by the government. Every local union and the Teamsters Union had a supervised election. And in that election, the members voted for the delegates to the convention in 1991. At that convention now, under all their supervision, all of those delegates went to the convention, and the consent decree was presented to the delegates, because our Constitution reads that anything that the Executive Board, action taken by them between conventions, is subject to the next convention. So 12 members of our Executive Board signed a consent decree. We went to convention, and those consent decree pieces were read into our Constitution and were rejected overwhelmingly by the delegates at that convention. The government implemented them anyway. Our votes were totally ignored, so when they call it a consent decree, I have a hard time saying that anybody really consented to it, because the people who signed it under duress. It went to a convention, and our votes, our members elected us to go there and do their business. We voted against it, and they rejected our votes and just implemented it. And they now, basically, it's a government-run union under this consent decree, and it's been in place for 20 years. Their job was to eliminate organized crime. There's been studies showing that that was done 10 years ago. There is no longer any organized crime in the Teamsters Union. But we've created a board that now looks for reasons to stay in existence. That's the way I feel about it. They came after me and charged me with attempting to negotiate a substandard agreement in Las Vegas. And when I gave you my credentials earlier, as you can see, I've been in the trade show industry for a long time. I'm on the Convention Bureau Board in Chicago. I was the chairman of the Chicago Convention and Tourism Bureau for a year. And my reputation in that industry is well known and well respected. But they charged me with attempting to negotiate a contract, a substandard agreement. There was never an agreement. There was a hearing in Las Vegas, a 2-day hearing. I testified. I asked them, how do you determine something substandard when there is no agreement? if there had been an agreement, I didn't even have the authority to sign it. But my lawyer afterwards said they should be embarrassed for bringing the charges against you because this case was that bad. They barred me for life for that. And now people who are Teamsters cannot talk to me, and that's where I have a problem. Because they wanted to come and get me for whatever reasons, and we could go into that all day long, why this is. But they now tell Teamsters if they talk to me, they can be barred for life. 4 good friends of mine were thrown out of the union for talking to me. In turn, they have now brought contempt charges against me for talking to my friends. And I feel like I've become a poster child for the Independent Review Board. There's been, since I'm gone, I've been gone 7 years, Augie. And time flies when you're having fun, I guess. But they've persecuted my family. My wife has had a couple of strokes. She had some lung surgeries. They don't care what they do to your family. They went after my 3 sons in different phases, and all that affects my wife. She can't call friends of hers because they grabbed my cell phone records. They found 4 of my friends, barred them for life for just talking to me. We didn't talk union business. These are guys that I'd known for 40 and 50 years. One guy, I went to 5th grade with him. Him and his wife and I were in 5th grade together. I was his best man. He's the godfather to one of my sons. And that brings up an interesting point. My son is afraid to talk to his godfather because his godfather is now barred for talking to me. That's what this freedom of speech thing is all about here.
Well, we got a caller on the line. Caller, what is your question for Bill Hogan? Caller, are you still on? We're sorry that... Yeah, what is your question for Bill Hogan? Go ahead. I guess we lost that call. Bill, I have a letter in front of me I'd like to read. This was from the business agent from Teamsters Local 631. You don't mind if I read this one? It's dated May 11, 2009. To the membership, I guess. Dear member, this letter is being sent to you to remind you of your obligation with regards to the consent decree between the International Brotherhood of Teamsters and the government, specifically your obligation with regards to barred members Frank Incandela. The decision issued on October the 12th, 2006 permanently bars Mr. Incandela from union membership. Teamster members are prohibited not only from contact with Mr. Incandela that concerns union affairs, but from any purposeful contact, and particularly purposeful social contact with Mr. Incandela, even though that contact is unrelated to union affairs. As was Mr. Incandela's, Teamster members have themselves been barred from the union for having purposeful contact with individuals who have been barred from the union. Therefore, it is of the utmost importance that all members protect themselves and the lives that you have worked so hard to secure. By violating the decision, you are jeopardizing everything. For example, your Teamster membership, your employment, your continued increased pensions, benefits, your health and welfare benefits for you and your loved ones. In a nutshell, everything. You jeopardize everything. Fraternally, Tom Clapper, business agent, Teamsters Local 631. Can you explain that to us, Bill?
Well, that's
the impact of this letter.
That's how far things have gone here, Augie. This Incandela, Frank Incandela, was barred for talking to another individual named Dane Passo. Dane was involved in the case I was involved in Las Vegas. Dane and Frank were friends. They had talked on the phone. They found that out by getting Dane Passo's cell records, and they barred Incandela. He now works at one of the trucking companies out there. It's union, but he works there non-union because he can't be a Teamster because he's been barred. So what they're doing now, and which is horrendous here, is they're actually threatening the members that if they talk to a member that they work with or a non-member that they work with, that they in fact can lose their job, they can lose their membership. And I really don't believe that was the intent of the consent decree. And that's where I find fault with what's happening today, is that they have terrorized people to the point of, which is upsetting to me when I talk about my family, is my mother just passed away in April. And she and my father were at more Teamster functions probably than anybody over a 50-year period. She knows almost every Teamster in this city. Not one Teamster official came to her wake to show their respect. And the only thing I can read from that is that they were afraid to do that. Yeah. Because I might be there, and if they talk to me, they're putting their membership in jeopardy. They're scared that somebody would say they'd talk to me and they would be thrown out of the union.